I got mad at my mom for saying she wishes she met my stepdad sooner so she could have only dated him. My parents met in high school and were together for years before getting married in their early 20s. They had my older brother Danny, and then me 2 years later. When I was 3, my dad died in a car accident. I don't remember him at all, just pictures my mom used to keep around the house. A year after dad died, mom met Rick at the grocery store. They got married 5 months later. Now they have 4 kids together. My half-siblings are all under 10. Mom and Rick are super in love, always holding hands and calling each other babe, which would be fine except for this one thing mom keeps saying that drives me crazy. She tells people all the time that she wishes she'd met Rick sooner, that he's the real love of her life, that she wishes she could erase all their past relationships so they only ever dated each other. I've heard her say it at least 7 times. My brother Danny heard it even more, like 10 times total before he moved out. Rick always agrees and says life would be perfect if that happened. He tries to soften it by saying me and Danny would still be his kids somehow, but that doesn't make it better. Danny went no contact with mom last year. He'd been barely talking to her since he turned 18, but now he won't answer her calls or texts at all. He blocked Rick immediately when he moved out. Mom kept asking him what was wrong, but he never explained. He just disappeared from her life. I know exactly why he left though, because I feel the same way. Every time mom says that stuff about wishing she'd only been with Rick, it's like she's erasing dad, like she's saying me and Danny shouldn't exist. Mom finally noticed things were bad between us. She suggested we go to therapy together to work on our relationship before I ended up like Danny. I agreed because I figured maybe she'd finally understand. 3 weeks ago, we had our first session with this therapist named Dr. Lisa. Mom spent the first 20 minutes talking about how confused she was. She kept saying she didn't understand why both her kids turned against her or why Danny won't even talk to her anymore. Finally, I just came out with it. I told her how it feels to hear her wish she'd met Rick sooner, how it erases dad and erases who me and Danny are. Because if she'd never met dad, we wouldn't exist. These would be completely different kids. Mom looked at me like I was crazy. She said she could understand Danny being upset about it, but then she said, Rick is the only dad you ever knew. This shouldn't bother you. That made me so angry. I told her Rick isn't my dad and never will be. I said if I died and my future kids were babies, I wouldn't want someone to erase me from their lives. Mom got defensive and said, you don't have the right to be mad about my love life. That's separate from being your mom. I looked her dead in the eye and said, you're right. Our relationship is separate from yours. You might only want Rick, but that doesn't mean we have to want him as our dad. Mom's face turned red. She told me I was getting into private business and trying to dictate her feelings, that I had no right to be mad at her for expressing her true feelings about her husband. Dr. Lisa jumped in and said, but you're getting mad at her for expressing her true feelings too. That's when Mom completely lost it. She started yelling that it was different because I was trying to shame her for loving her husband, that I was being unfair and disrespectful. Then she went off about how disgusting it was that I wasn't happy Rick was so loved and present in my life, how he was there for me when dad wasn't, like dad chose to die or something. Mom and Dr. Lisa started arguing so loud that I had to leave the room. Now their sessions are just the 2 of them. Mom comes out after each one absolutely furious. She won't talk to me at home except to say I'm being ridiculous. Last night she told me I owed her an apology for what I said in therapy. I told her she owes me and Danny an apology for the last 12 years. She hasn't spoken to me since.